Ciao, everyone, and welcome back to Experience Italy with Friends. This week's episode showcases the Tuscan city of Pistoia. It's a city that we discovered almost exactly a year ago when we were searching all over Tuscany for places to live. It was love at first sight, and it quickly made our shortlist. We've now lived in Pistoia for a month and can't wait to tell you all about our experience. We'll discuss what Pistoia has to offer, both as a place to visit during your travels in Italy, as well as a place to call home. Let's get started. Andiamo! Experience Italy with Friends is a travel and lifestyle podcast where we will explore our favorite destinations and hidden gems, share key travel tips and cultural insights, and provide real-time updates about our move to this remarkable country. Join me, Tanya Razzo, an Italian travel expert and founder of Amici Vacations, and my Italian husband and producer, Davide Razzo, on a journey that is sure to inspire you and prepare you to create immersive and authentic experiences of your own in the beautiful country of Italy. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to episode number 7. I can't believe we're already at this number. Time sure does fly. I'm your host, Tanya, and I'm here with my co-host, producer, and husband, Davide.
Hey, benvenuti. And just to mention, and the number 7 is my lucky number.
Great. So this is going to be a special episode?
Yes.
So today's episode will be all about the city of Pistoia, our first of 3 trial homes in the region of Tuscany.
Hey, and for those who don't know where Pistoia is, it's in the northwest part of Tuscany. To the east of it, there's Florence, the big brother city of Pistoia. And then to the west of Pistoia is Lucca. And Pistoia is about in the middle, right in between there. So it's a medium-sized city, 90,000 people population, right, Tanya?
Yeah, not too big, not too small. And as I mentioned in the intro, I first discovered the city about a year ago when I began researching options of where to live in Tuscany, and it was love at first sight. I can't wait to tell you why we love it and our experience there, but first, let's provide a quick update on our new life in Italy. Davide, what have we been up to and where are we now?
Well, we've been here now for 6 weeks. We've been doing a lot of things. And if you are following us on our social media, especially our Experience Italy with Friends Facebook group, you will be seeing posts of the day trips we've done, right, Tanya? We went to Florence, we went to Cinque Terre, we went to Livorno.
Yeah, we've done a lot of fun mini trips. And I have to say, it's been great to meet with many business partners, tour guides and such, hotels. But what I've really enjoyed is being able to explore these cities that we've been to before at a more casual pace, like really spend some time to take it in and stroll around and actually go into some of the museums and churches that, before we've had to just pass by on, short visits. So it's been a lot of fun. And I think one of the things we've loved about Pistoia is being able to easily do these day trips.
Yeah. So last week, though, we moved once again. So now we're in Montepulciano. It's a hill town in the southeast part of the region. And we went from city life to beautiful countryside.
Yes, it's quite a change. I would love to say that moving has gotten easier, but I'd be lying. It's been tiring, and it's also hard to say goodbye yet again. Like just when you're starting to get to know a place and meet some people, it seemed we're packing up and saying goodbyes again. And
yeah, and to me, it seems like with every move, we have more stuff. So,
like maybe boxes of wine.
Hey, no, come on.
Well, I have to say we've been getting good at using every inch of car space. And I mean, if you can imagine a station wagon that we've had to rent, it is like stuffed every corner of it. But we managed to get here.
Yeah, it took us about 2 hours with some detours that we did on purpose. And then we unpacked and then we started to explore the home here. And then the one thing that I really was impressed with was the view of our terrace here, the view of Montepulciano. So
Yes, very different, but more to come about that in future episodes.
Okay, fine.
So let's pause on that and shift to talking about our last home, Pistoia.
Okay, so how do you want to do that? How do you want to break it down, Tanya?
Well, let's begin with a little history about Pistoia.
Ooh, I love history.
And then we'll move into talking about what the city has to offer tourists.
Okay.
And finish with a discussion of our experience living there. How's that sound?
That sounds like a plan, as usual.
Great. Well, Davide, why don't you give us a brief history lesson about Pistoia? What should we know about this city and its past?
So during ancient times, there were early settlements by Gallic, Ligurian, and the Etruscans. Then the Romans came about 600 BC, along with the important Via Cassia. So which some of that is still visible near the Duomo today.
Hey, wait a second. What is the Via Cassia, Davide?
So the Via Cassia is one of the most important roads that the Romans built. It starts in Rome, right? And there's also Via Appia, there's the Via Francigena. So the Via Cassia starts in Rome, goes along both rivers, the Tevere and the Arno River. So it goes up to Florence, and then from Florence to Pistoia, and then it ends up in Lucca. And I do believe that the intention was to finish in Livorno, because it was Livorno is a big port town. So,
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, so anyway, in the 5th century AD, now we're AD, Pistoia fell under the bishop rule and later under the Lombard kingdom, and it became a royal city. And as in medieval times, when there was a royal city, it came with privileges.
So it became more important.
Yeah, it became more important. So 12th century, the commune finally proclaimed itself free, but was politically so important that they started to build walls around the city and erect religious and public buildings. Then in the 13th century, Pistoia became a Ghibelline city, or a Ghibelline. I don't know how to pronounce that. The Ghibelline people are people that are very sympathetic to the Papal Roman Empire. Later, it was attacked and conquered by the Gulf people from Florence. Gulf people are also Papal Roman Empire supporters. In 1530, the city definitely was annexed to Florence, meaning it was under Florence rule. So why was that important to be under Florence influence? Because Florence was owned by the Medici family and was influenced by its Renaissance and the support of the Renaissance in Italy. So that's why it's so important to mention that. So one of the most famous people in Pistoia was the Rospigliosi family. They owned agricultural estates and they were wool merchants. One of the members became the Pope Giulio Rospigliosi, who became Pope Clemente IX. So, Another fun fact, theory, the name Pistoia, its name lends from the word pistol. In Italian, pistol is pistola. So, because pistols were manufactured there in the mid of the 16th century. But today, Pistoia is more known for its nurseries and flower markets, something that you like, Tanya, right?
Definitely.
So, anyway. So, Tanya, now that we know a little bit of Pistoia's history, is it a good place to visit for a tourist?
The easy answer is yes, most definitely. But let me first tell you what drew me to Pistoia in the first place.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I first learned of the city from a post on Facebook. I've read exactly what was said, but it sounded appealing. It was close to Florence, a little bit smaller, known for its garden industry, as you mentioned. And since I love gardening, this seemed to be a sign.
Mm-hmm.
So almost exactly a year ago, I was visiting Florence with a friend before you joined me, and I decided to go check it out. Okay. I went on a Sunday and it was market day. I immediately noticed how clean the city was and also felt the energy. There were lots of local people strolling around. They were sitting at the cafes, and I was getting out my phone and taking videos to send you because it just struck me as a really fun community. And in many ways, it struck me as a mini Florence. but without the mass tourism. And again, I had just taken the train from Florence and the tons of crowds, and I get to Pistoia and I'm like, it kind of has a look and feel of Florence, but kind of on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
So when you joined me about a week later, I insisted we go back so I could show you.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, what was your first impression, Davide?
Very similar. What I was impressed was that it was sort of modern, clean, but it had that medieval charm. It wasn't like 20th century city, like typical that,
Right. Not really industrial.
No, not at all. So anyway.
So I guess for our listeners, let me help you visualize the city a little bit. As Davide talked about, it's a medieval city. It has actually a double wall when you think of like a medieval walled city. Like, Lucca is another neighboring town with a medieval wall, and Florence had a number of walls too. But
Siena.
Pistoia has two. It started with one, and then it expanded and another one was built. And, within these walls, it's still a very compact city center and a, very cozy feel. Outside of the walls, it becomes a little bit more residential and there is an industrial section of town, but the main part of town is within the walls, and it contains many wonderful historical buildings and medieval churches, really beautiful architecture. And you'll see a lot of, that Renaissance influence, the green and white marble. And it's one of the best places to visit in Tuscany to see, the importance of the arts from the Middle Ages to the current day, and it's really been preserved. So overall, it's a really nice blend of a modern, updated city that hasn't forgotten its past.
Okay. So what are the main attractions in town there? What is there to see?
Well, let me start with the Piazza del Duomo. It's the city's main tourist attraction, and it's set inside the first set of the city walls. And to be honest, it looks very similar to Florence's Piazza del Duomo. It's a square made up of a number of structures. The first is the Cathedral of San Zeno. This dates back to the 10th, 12th century. The Duomo has also a beautiful bell tower, which you can climb for a great view of the surrounding area, so I've been told.
Well, yeah, and it was closed in October when we wanted to climb it, right?
So we missed out on that, but on our to-do list. Then across from the cathedral, as in, many Piazza del Duomos, is the baptistry.
Yeah.
Built in the 14th century. It's octagonal and green and white striped marble. Again, similar to the baptistry in Florence. So you're starting to get the picture here. It's just it's got this huge influence and a lot of similarities to Florence. Next to the Duomo is a brick building known as the Bishop's Palace. And it has loggia and arches similar to what you would see in, Renaissance times. It's now a museum.
Yeah.
The Museo Capitolare, and it houses historical and religious artifacts and a lot of Renaissance paintings. And finally in the piazza is the Palazzo del Comune, the government center.
I love that one.
Yeah, it dates back to the 13th century, and we were able to tour it. It was very impressive. Again, you have that Medici vibe.
Yep.
Like I could picture the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. But what was funny that we noticed when we went up and looked at the kind of their meeting rooms.
Yeah, the meetings room.
Like you see the Medici symbol on the wall and the coat of arms, and you see all these old paintings. And then you have these desks with microphones and like video conferencing.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah.
So I just couldn't imagine like having a city council meeting and you're in such like historical significance and, in your modern day time. So I don't know, it was kind of fun. And I think that's a great way to even summarize the entire city is modern with historical altogether. One thing we loved about this piazza is that most of the city's events take place there. Like there's always something going on.
Yeah, like one weekend there was the medieval festival. That was really cool.
I loved it. Men in tights.
The men in tights and the fake sword duels they were doing and stuff like
Flag throwing. Yeah. It was a really fun event. And then it seemed like every other day or weekend there was something else going on.
Yeah, like I think there was one weekend was the marathon was ending there. So and there were a car race with all old cars, old Porsches and some of the older cars. So anyway.
No, really fun. And let me kind of continue on from the Piazza del Duomo, because right a block away, as you're wandering and you're still starstruck from seeing the Piazza del Duomo, you stumble into the Piazza della Sala. And I instantly thought, wow, how charming. What is this? And, picture a big square lined with restaurants and a lot of mom and pop shops. There was the butcher, there was, a produce market, but really, the cute bars and cafes. And also in the middle of the piazza is a medieval drinking well. And I couldn't help but notice it right away. It reminded me actually of the one here in Montepulciano.
Yeah.
Similar structure, lion statues up at the top of it. And it just kind of made me warm up to the city even more. And so while the Piazza del Duomo is the historical and the architectural heart of Pistoia and where a lot of events take place, I would say the Piazza della Sala is the commercial and social center. And it's one of the city's oldest squares. It's the scene of the, Pistoia's market and has been since the 11th century. And every day you'll have like food markets in the morning. Maybe it quiets down a little bit in the afternoon. Then activity picks up after work and people start to congregate.
For aperitivo and...
Yeah, but the cafes and trattorias. And
it's so beautiful.
We really enjoyed.
We had a lot of visitors and we always brought them there.
Yes, there's always something going on and a great vibe, great buzz about the city there. Let's move on. So outside of the Piazza Duomo complex, Pistoia is known for having many beautiful churches, which contain famous pulpits, art, and sculptures.
Like everywhere in Italy.
Yes, and we're not always huge into seeing all of that. I think we're becoming more cultured and starting to pay attention more to the frescoes and the artists and what is where and paying attention. And I made us take a day to play tourist in the city and dragged you to many of these.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I am on board. I'm like, we have to be able to talk about these beautiful places.
Yeah.
So there are, again, with every Italian city, there are dozens of churches. Right. So I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I'm going to highlight a couple of them because my favorite actually was the Basilica of the Madonna dell'Umiltà.
Madonna dell'Umiltà.
Okay, you say it better. And what was fun about this church is that it seems to be such a simple church based on its facade, but inside was beautiful. And I guess most importantly is it has this impressive brick cupola.
Yes.
Similar to Florence's Duomo. You all know the brick huge dome that rises from the skyline. And this is, similar in Pistoia. Like you look from the street and you're like, what is that big brick dome?
Yeah.
And we were on a hunt for it. And then you go and you're like, oh, it's kind of a simple church.
Yeah.
But beautiful on the inside.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was a nice church. So
okay, then there is the Church of San Giovanni Forcivitas. This is the church that you notice right when you're coming into Pistoia, walking from the train station. And it's large and it's also green and white striped.
I thought that was the Duomo when I first walked by, but that wasn't. So
no, but very similar in design and style, back from the 14th century. So similar time period.
Wow.
And, the style was around for a while because now you've got the Church of San Andrea, also some green and white striped, design in its facade. And that was from the 8th century. So lots of examples of beautiful old churches from the Renaissance period to explore. Yeah. So moving on from churches, though, we learned of a interesting attraction in Pistoia.
Yeah, it's the Pistoia Sotterranea, which is also known as the Pistoia's Underground. If you're interested in archaeological or medical history, that's maybe a tour you want to take. We actually met the tour guide that is specialized in this, and he was a very nice guy. Too bad we did not make it while we were there. So
we didn't, but I noticed it because we walked by this building many times, and I was curious, what is this beautiful structure with, a portico in front of it? And later when we finally clicked on Google Maps and learned it was this hospital.
Yeah. So it's the Ospedale del Ceppo, which is a medieval hospital that it's on the north side of the Palazzo del Comune. It was founded in the 13th or 14th century, and its name was taken from the offering box, which in Italian is the ceppo. So at the beginning of the 16th century, it became dependent on the Ospedale di Santa Maria Novella in Florence, and it was following the Florentine pattern, building-wise. Like they built a portico in front of the facade.
What I was noticing as we were walking by.
Yes. So they also found parts of one of Italy's oldest surgical amphitheaters, where 15th century medical students learned anatomy from the dissections of cadavers. Ooh.
Ugh.
Coming up on Halloween.
Well, that's interesting. And I definitely want to do this when we return to Pistoia someday.
Yeah. So we owe it to the tour guide.
Yes. And a last attraction I want to bring up that we also didn't get a chance to visit, and a little bit of a fun fact, is the Pistoia Zoo. Like, I've never really thought about zoos in Italy and all the different times that we've traveled here, but
I didn't even know there was a zoo.
There is a main zoo in Tuscany, 15 minutes outside of Pistoia, the Pistoia Zoo, and it's quite large. So I think it's a great thing to note for families with maybe younger kids or those interested in seeing elephants and giraffes in Italy.
All right. Well, I think that's a good summary of these attractions for tourists, right, Tanya? So, but as you mentioned before, Pistoia has a very active community, as we discovered, and it has a lots of events. So what do they have?
Yes, it does. It has two key ones, both in July. And I'm going to let you talk about the first one because it is up your alley of interest.
Yes, it's the Pistoia Blues Festival, which takes place in July. Yes, it's not just blues, it's also folk and rock music. I think next year, one of my favorite Italian artists is coming as the main attraction, Gianna Nannini. So
we may have to go.
We might. So
okay, so the Blues Festival, which is now we've learned is more of a music festival, is early July. Then later in July is the Giostra dell'Orso, and this translates as the Joust of the Bear. And it's, I think, one of the main attractions of Pistoia, that it's a horse contest between the historical districts of Pistoia. And this reminded me of Siena. And,
similar to Il Palio, huh?
Yeah, Palio. Okay. And they transformed the piazza to an oval track and have bleachers, and everyone comes to watch this historical medieval jousting contest. So
I'm wondering if there's any betting going on.
So, two key events. And then lastly, I just need to point out, because I love seeing Italy at Christmas, that I learned Pistoia has a great Christmas market and lots of special events and cultural events. So if you're in Italy around the holidays, make a trip to Pistoia.
Wow. Pistoia offers a lot of nice events. But I think that, what's great about Pistoia is its location and the train station that comes with. Why is that, Tanya?
Well, it really offers a lot of being able to see the neighboring things to Pistoia. And I think everyone naturally first thinks of Florence as a good home base to explore northwestern Tuscany. And while it is, it's a bigger city, it's more crowded, and it's more expensive. So I just want to call out that Pistoia, given that we've talked about it's a smaller version of Florence, but in many ways it's more authentic and less expensive. And it's in a great location to see the northwest parts of Tuscany. We mentioned it's 20 minutes from Lucca. It's 20 minutes from Florence. So you can easily hop on a train and see the region.
Yeah, as we did. We went to Cinque Terre, we went to Livorno, of course, Florence, right? So
Pisa is nearby.
Yeah.
So
also nearby is the spa town of Montecatini Terme, right? And then what else?
The mountains. I think we need to spend a little bit of time about the mountains around Pistoia. We finally got in a car and drove around the area. In addition to taking trains, we wanted to go up in the mountains and see what everyone was talking about.
Yeah, so one can ski, right, in winter in Betone, and also in Montecimone, you can go ski. In summer, it's actually really nice. You can drive up there and sort of kind of cool off up high.
Yes, as we were driving, I think I even mentioned to you, I'm like, in many ways, I felt like we were in Switzerland.
A little bit.
That it's different feel from Tuscany, where you're used to seeing the cypress trees and vineyards and different, types of just trees. I mean, this was really a forest and mountains, and I didn't know that it was all there, and you could go skiing an hour away from downtown Pistoia.
Yeah. Also, there's Monte Catini Alto, which is very nice and charming.
Kind of more of a mountain town.
Yeah. And then the one other thing I need to mention is the small town of Collodi. And if you guys are Pinocchio fans, the name Collodi is the name of the author, but it's actually where the author comes from. He comes from the town of Collodi, which is near Pescia, I believe. So nearby, all there.
Fun
in
fact.
That part. Yeah. So anyway.
So now we've spent a lot of time talking about Pistoia's attractions and what's near Pistoia for tourists to enjoy. But what about living in Pistoia? I think it's important, after spending 4 weeks there, that we share with listeners who are maybe interested in Pistoia from what it has to offer for residents.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe let's start with some of the things we loved about the city. And I think we mentioned this before already, but it's historical charm, right? I mean, it's so well preserved that you have a modern, flourishing city that has maintained great architecture and historical charm and events. And what I love is it's a small city. It's not as big as Florence. I mean, I think we would say it's about like a third of the size if we were to estimate, but it has a lot going on and a ton of energy, as we talked about. And we got to enjoy a lot of restaurants and bars and great shopping. And they have a lot of city markets, multiple days of the week where it's either produce or clothing or housewares. And it's just really fun. So I think we enjoyed the main city center. We've gotten to know a lot of people. As we mentioned, we loved its geographical location and the fact that it's convenient, has a very convenient train station, and you can get to other great cities, as we mentioned above. You can get to the sea
to
quite easily.
Yeah, Viareggio, Forte dei Marmi. You can be there in an hour.
Yes.
So.
Awesome. And so that whole area of the northwest corner of Tuscany, that you can go to Lucca or Florence or Pisa for a day trip or even dinner. I mean, with a 20, 30-minute ride to Florence, have dinner and come home. And you really get to enjoy the best of that corner of the region. And lastly, we need to mention the friendly people.
I love the guys at the Norcerina Orsi, which is one of the oldest deli shops in Pistoia. And I think it's in its third generation, right?
Yes, and the couple that owns it are so sweet. They would come out and talk with us a lot. And we enjoyed many evenings there with a great taglieri and a glass of wine.
And the pastas, the homemade pastas and stuff.
Yes, and soups. So loved that. And there's also a small expat community that we were introduced to. And just very friendly, very welcoming. So overall, thumbs up on the city.
Yeah.
Though we do need to note there's a couple of challenges
Just
that
a little
come,
bit.
for living in Pistoia. And we said the big plus of it is that it's a city, not a small village, but a challenge is that it's a city.
Yes.
And I mean, this comes with any city that you have. It's busy. It's lots of traffic. It can be noisy.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be this decision between city life, country life. But even though it has a great train station, you still need a car.
We still need a car, especially if you want to go up the mountains or to San Gimignano, which is only 40 minutes away by car. You can get to San Gimignano so quick, or in the Chianti region. You still kind of need a car.
Yeah.
So.
Which adds some complexity for city life in any city of where do you park the car?
Yes.
And keep the car when you're not using it and you're using the train instead. So I think overall we're struggling trying to figure out like where in Pistoia to live if we choose that as our final destination, and finding the balance between being close to the center and having it be walkable, but also being able to enjoy some peace and quiet and some nature. So that's going to be our big decision to make is, do we want city life? Do we want to be in the center? Do we want to be more in the mountains? Is there a way to get the best of both worlds in a city that is big and doesn't have a lot of properties available to rent or buy? So we may have to be patient. So I don't know, anything you want to add about our living in Pistoia experience? I think I just want to say I'm glad we chose the city.
Okay, I really enjoyed living in Pistoia. I think, like we said, it offered a lot of pros, but we still need to do and visit other two towns that we picked. The one is Montepulciano, and then the third one is going to be Castiglione Fiorentino, and then we will see. So anyway, well, we're again at the end of this podcast, Tanya. Let's conclude, as usual, with tips from Tanya. Tips from Tanya.
Thanks, Davide. While working on this episode, a few trip planning tips came to mind that I thought would be helpful to share with our listeners. And the first one is in selecting a home base. For the region of Tuscany, I think it's typical to think of using Florence as a home base. And my first tip is to consider picking a nearby city such as Pistoia as a more authentic and less expensive option. We loved it. And know that there are many similar gems that don't get considered when picking a home base, and using that to maybe go visit Florence versus staying in Florence and visiting Pistoia. Flip that.
Yeah, like we did in Rome. Remember, we stayed in the little town of Tivoli, which was outside of Rome. And we just had to go to the subway. That was a station nearby. And we took the subway into downtown Rome.
Yes.
So anyway.
So a second tip, that comes to mind in how we talked about Pistoia is to research when market day is for your destinations in Italy. And they are better than any flea market or farmer's market I have been to in the U.S. And it's so much fun to explore them and see the local city come to life. And, everyone comes out to shop. It's an event, to purchase their local produce and food specialties and a lot of fun clothing and home goods. So great souvenirs to bring home. But do a little research and figure out when market day is so that you don't miss it where you're at. And lastly, I would suggest doing a little research about the key events that are taking place in your destinations of interest. I often forget to do this myself and often am either pleasantly surprised to happen upon an event or I'm bummed to learn that I just missed out. As an example, we were just walking in Montepulciano the other morning and came across its event board. And we stopped to look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all these festivals taking place. There was Oktoberfest, and upcoming is an olive oil festival, a chestnut festival. Yeah. So Italy, all of these towns have great events, and make sure, to look them up and see when they're going to be. Those are my tips for this episode.
But hey, Tanya, great tips again. Great planning tips for people. But hey, we're at the end of this episode, so...
We are. We just finished lucky number 7. So thank you, everybody, once again for listening. We're very excited to be doing this every couple of weeks and seeing our listener base grow. So thank you for joining us. And I hope you really enjoyed learning about our first location and living experiment in Tuscany, the wonderful city of Pistoia. It's been really fun to be able to share it with you who may want to visit or maybe even live there. So come back in a couple of weeks and we'll have another episode for you.
All right.
Ciao, everyone.
Ciao.
We hope you've enjoyed Experience Italy with Friends. If you like the podcast, remember to follow us and leave a review letting us know what you found to be the most helpful. And if you want expert advice or assistance in creating your own immersive and authentic experience in Italy, visit us at www.amicivacations.com.